So welcome to this webinar of Radboud University. My name is Loes, or Lois. I am the admissions officer of the Faculty of Medical Sciences, but tonight I represent the whole university. And with me are two of our current students, Claudia and Taina. They will introduce themselves in a minute as well. And Jack from Innova, who represents us in Latin America and is also happy to answer all questions. You can ask all your questions in the chat. And we will either answer them during the presentation in the chat or speaking to you. But first, I want to give the word to Jack to present his second slide about his organization. Jack, no? I was assuming Jack was going to present this slide, but to tell us a little bit about the organization he works for and how they represent our university and study in Holland in Latin America. You can see that here, how you can reach them and what they can do for you. They are very familiar with the Dutch education system and have Dutch speaking staff members, so you can ask them any questions. They also speak Spanish. All right, then I think with the next slide, our students will introduce themselves. Claudia and Taina, are you ready for presenting your slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Claudia, bienvenidos.
Oi, pessoal, eu sou a Taina, bem-vindos se tiver algum brasileiro por aí.
Bueno, actualmente estoy estudiando una maestría en economía. Siéntanse libres en hacerme preguntas en el chat. Aquí estoy al pendiente de él.
E o mesmo em português. Se quiserem fazer perguntas no chat em português, posso responder. Claudia, do you want to start with this, the first? So guys, yeah, I'm going to speak in English. We are going to speak both in Portuguese and in Spanish.
And Spanish.
So yeah, we don't know where you guys are from, so you can
yeah, it's a good feeling to understand. I mean, the two languages is good. So I will start. La Universidad Radboud se encuentra en los Países Bajos y este país, los Países Bajos, es popularmente conocido por ser la tierra de los tulipanes y, claro, de muchas bicicletas. Además, ¿sabías que la educación superior holandesa se encuentra dentro del 1% de las mejores a nivel mundial? Porque los Países Bajos son muy pequeños, los holandeses han viajado siempre a través del mundo y eso los ha hecho tolerantes, abiertos de mente y siempre abiertos a otras culturas. También los holandeses hablan un perfecto inglés, entonces no es necesario hablar holandés, pero la universidad provee cursos de holandés para los estudiantes, para sus estudiantes internacionales, si estás interesado. Los cursos son gratis.
Agora em português, então, como vocês talvez já saibam, a Radboud University, ela fica na Holanda, na cidade de Nijmegen. A Holanda é conhecida como a terra das tulipas e das famosas bicicletas, que tem em todo lugar por aqui. A educação superior na Holanda é considerada entre as top 1% do mundo, entre as melhores 1% melhores do mundo. Aqui todo mundo fala inglês, então não é necessário obrigatoriamente aprender a falar holandês, mas tem cursos também de holandês de graça na universidade. Para os estudantes, se você vier estudar e quiser aprender holandês, também é possível. Next slide, please.
Yes, please.
The next slide.
Yeah, it's a bit slow. I'm trying.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
It might take 2 slides now. Why is it not going? No.
Ok, well, aquí podemos ver. Oh, podíamos ver.
have we gone too far? I don't, for me,
Yes.
I think, yes, I think it's the next slide. Oh, yes, it's because it's not, yeah, I can see. Well, aquí nosotros podemos ver que los Países Bajos es realmente un país pequeño en el mapa. Por eso los Países Bajos son el lugar apropiado para conocer muchos lugares en Europa. Yeah.
Então, vendo pelo mapa aqui, gente, acho que vocês devem saber que a Holanda é um país bem pequenininho da Europa e por isso mesmo é muito fácil de conhecer qualquer região do país e até mesmo os outros países. É muito fácil você ter acesso a outros países a partir da Holanda. I'm going to keep going, Claudia, and then
Yes,
Nijmegen é uma cidade bem pequenininha também, bem tranquila, é uma cidade estudantil e é bem pertinho da divisa com a Alemanha, da fronteira com a Alemanha, então também é fácil, por exemplo, passar um fim de semana na Alemanha. Os preços de acomodação de um quarto, de uma estadia, né, de aluguel de um quarto, na Holanda, em Nijmegen, variam entre 370 e 440 euros por mês, mais ou menos. Claudia.
Donde nosotros podemos encontrar la Universidad Radboud es en la ciudad de Nijmegen. Esta ciudad es muy segura y además está llena de estudiantes. Además está muy cerca de las fronteras con Alemania. Además me gustaría mencionar que el precio de alojamiento depende del lugar donde tú elijas vivir y de los gastos relacionados como la luz, el agua, el internet u otros. Una habitación cuesta aproximadamente entre 370 y 440 euros por mes.
Next slide, please.
Yes, please.
How long it takes?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and aqui é a Holanda e a cidade de Nijmegen.
Yeah, here is Nijmegen. Yes, podemos ver Holanda.
Já falamos sobre a cidade um pouquinho, então agora a gente vai falar por que você deveria escolher vir para Nijmegen. Next slide.
¿Por qué Nijmegen? ¿Por qué elegir Nijmegen? Porque Nijmegen tiene una vida atractiva y entretenida para los estudiantes, porque tiene excelentes cafés y restaurantes, porque puedes ir a todos lados con tu bicicleta, porque tiene muchos espacios verdes y porque está situada idealmente para poder explorar otros lugares de Europa.
Next. Tá vindo devagar, mas resumindo, para quem não conseguiu entender o que a Cláudia falou em espanhol, a cidade de Nijmegen, como a gente já falou, é uma cidade estudantil, então a maior parte da população é de estudantes, tem bastante parques e áreas verdes, a vida cultural é bem rica, tem bastante festas locais para se divertir, muitos cafés e restaurantes legais também, e como eu falei, é um ponto muito fácil de explorar toda a Europa, é uma região muito centralizada na Europa, e a cidade em si, você consegue percorrer ela toda de bicicleta, é muito fácil. Então, é um local muito legal para morar. Next.
¿Qué tiene en específico que ofrecerte la Universidad Radboud?
Next.
Okay, so first of all, why Radboud? One of the things we can talk about are the rankings. In the Netherlands, we have ranked 8 or 9 times out of the last 10 years best traditional or comprehensive university as voted by the students. But also in the international rankings, we're scoring pretty high. The first one you see is the ARWU or Shanghai ranking, where we score 104. On the Times Higher Education teaching table, we actually scored 24th in the world, which we're very proud of. The General Times Higher Education ranking 128, and the QS ranking 217. And actually, Dutch education in general has a really good and strong reputation. It's really good value for money. We have 13 research universities in the top 200 of the world, and that makes us the highest ranked country after the US and the UK. Of such a small country as we are, that's a pretty good achievement. And also 13 research universities in the top 200, it's 13 out of the 14 that we have in the Netherlands. We also have a lot of universities of applied sciences. They don't participate in the rankings, so they're hard to compare.
No solamente recibes clases en la universidad, tú también haces mucho trabajo en pequeños grupos. En esos grupos tú puedes compartir tus ideas con otros estudiantes internacionales sobre diferentes temas. Aparte de las clases y de los tutoriales, es esperado que los estudiantes realicen un poco de autoestudio. Claro, tú puedes hacerlo desde casa o en el campus. Para apoyar con el proceso de aprendizaje de los estudiantes, en la universidad tienen un tutor, el cual puedes contactar para hacer preguntas relacionadas con tus estudios. Y los profesores trabajan dentro del campus, entonces pueden ser es accesible que puedas contactarlos.
Então, aqui, além das aulas comuns, das lectures, a gente também tem bastante trabalhos em grupos. Nesses grupos tem bastantes alunos, estudantes internacionais, e tem tutoriais também que a gente aplica o conhecimento na prática, e principalmente tem muito estudo individual em casa, você tem que se preparar para assistir às aulas. Cada estudante, cada grupo de estudantes tem um tutor que está sempre à disposição para tirar dúvidas, para ajudar com algum problema que o estudante tenha. E também outros funcionários, outros professores também são sempre muito acessíveis para ajudar com qualquer problema que a gente tenha. Next.
Okay, then English again, a little bit about our research. We are a research-focused university, as the name already said. That means all our lecturers are also researchers, and we encourage interdisciplinary research. So the professors in the different faculties work together a lot. As a student, you can also experience that because you can take courses or do internship in other departments. And as I mentioned, all our lecturers and teachers are doing research, are researchers. That means they all have a PhD or are in the process of obtaining that. And it also means that as a student, you'll get a lot of very recent and newest research results presented in your teaching. Sometimes their own research, but also, of course, all the research they have read about or contributed to. And I think that's really, really cool for students. For example, I work in the medical sciences, and now with the corona vaccine, although students go through a hard time, it's a really interesting time in terms of teaching and research if you work in the medical field, because a lot of our researchers and teachers are directly involved in battling this pandemic. So some of the examples of our research facilities are the Donders Institute for Brain Cognition and Behavior. There's a lot of neuroscience in this field. It's quite a famous institute. You may have heard of it. We have some master's programs there: cognitive neuroscience, neurobiology, medical neuroscience. We have the high-field magnet laboratory. This is actually in the Faculty of Science. It's one of the strongest magnets in the world. I think the second strongest. And we have people from all over the world booking time at this lab to study the way materials behave in this magnetic field. And we have the Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics, for example. Max Planck is an individual independent institute that has research institutes on lots of different university campuses, and we're very proud to have one as well. And we also have the Radboud Institute for Molecular Life Sciences, the Institute for Molecules and Materials. So lots of research institutes where students can do their internships and where our lecturers work. Apart from research, of course, you want to hear about teaching. The students already told you a little bit about what the teaching looks like, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our master's programs. We have 35 programs taught in English. We have some more in Dutch, but 35 in English. I'm not going to mention all of them, but as you can see, we put the fields here that we cover. Pretty much anything that is taught at a research university can be studied at Radboud University, except for agriculture and engineering. Most of the programs are 1 year, except for the science programs. They are 2 years, and they all start at the beginning of September. Some programs have a second starting moment in February. We'll get to that later. And yeah, there's more information to be found on our website, www.ru.nl/masters. We will put that in the chat later on as well. So if you're interested in one of our master's programs, please have a look at our website and read everything there is to know about the programs. Of course, then you want to know whether you can be admitted to one of the programs. To meet the admission requirements, you have to have a bachelor degree or be in the final year and obtain it before September. And this bachelor degree has to be from a research university and has to be in a related field to your master's. So you cannot switch from history to chemistry, for example. You really have to be in the same field already. If there is a small gap, sometimes it's possible to do a pre-master year, which will cover 1 year, will cover all the gaps that are in the match between your previous education and your intended master's. It is always assessed on an individual basis. So you go through the application process and the program board will decide on a personal level whether or not you will be admitted. Furthermore, all the programs require proof of language. This can be one of the tests that you see here. Most of the programs have this minimum score. There are a few programs that have a higher requirement, so please look at the program requirements for that. And they're mostly the programs where you would expect that, for example, the research master in language and communication requires a slightly higher score. And then sometimes there are some additional documents, again, depending on the program. A motivation letter is one of them. Sometimes you need a resume or research experience description, reference letters, but have a look at the website for your specific program, what the requirements are. Funnily enough, we don't look at grades that much. Usually it's enough to pass, to have your bachelor's. The reason for that is the Dutch philosophy and the Dutch government policy that universities should be accessible for as many people as possible to give it a try. So it's quite easy, relatively easy to get in, but it's that doesn't mean the programs are easy. It's really hard work, and the requirements are high. So have a good discussion with your admissions contact person about that, because sometimes you meet the requirements, but there still might be some doubts whether you can make it. Sometimes there are some recommendations of reading before you start or catching up on some field in your chosen program. But yeah, so as mentioned, we don't really look at grades. We look more at, did you take the right courses? Was there enough maybe research methodology, or did you write a thesis, depending again on the program you've chosen. We do not have a standard requirement for GMATs. However, the Masters in Business Administration sometimes says when they see student backgrounds that they cannot decide, and they give a conditional admission on the condition that you obtain your GMATs. With the scores mentioned here, so 610 for a master's. If you've already done a GMAT and you have it, you can include it in your application. It might help. Let's see, did I miss something? No, I don't think so. Then application and deadline. So once you've decided that you want to apply and you've seen that you probably meet the admission requirements. Oh, there was one thing that I want to mention. Actually, we have an eligibility check on our website. So if you're not sure if you meet the requirements, you can go to our website and do the eligibility check. You fill in your details and you'll get a evaluation on whether we think you're eligible or not. Once you know you want to apply, you have to take 2 steps basically. One step is applying through StudyLink, which is the Dutch national system. Where you make an account with your personal details and pick the programs you are interested in. And then you will automatically receive login details for the university application portal, which is called Osiris application. And there you upload the relevant documents that we ask and some more details. And you can apply for up to 4 programs for 1 handling fee. So we ask for a handling fee of 75 euros for most programs. For some programs, it's 150. And you can apply for up to 4 programs with 1 handling fee, and this handling fee will be returned to you once you enroll and start your program. So only if you don't actually come, then it's lost. So as I said, all our programs start early September. Deadline to start in September is the 1st of April for non-European students. If you want to apply for a scholarship, it's the 1st of March. Or if you want to apply for one specific scholarship called the Holland Scholarship, which is available for Colombian students, it's 1st of February. We also have some programs that have a February intake, so that start in the middle of the academic year, and then the deadline is the 1st of November. And I'll get to the scholarships in a moment, straight away actually. So these are the scholarships that we participate in as a university. The Radboud Scholarship Program is completely run by the university, and the Holland Scholarship Program is a government-run program. But both of these are in our application system. So when you apply for the program, you can just tick a box whether you also want to apply for one of these scholarships. Please keep in mind that the Holland Scholarship is only for certain nationalities. And I think from our audience tonight, only Colombia is one of them. Orange Tulip Scholarship has an application procedure through the NISO office and is also available only for certain countries. And from the top of my head, that's only from Mexican students tonight.
Yes. If I can help you there, indeed, the Orange Tulip Scholarship is only for Mexicans, and then the Holland Scholarship Program is not for Mexicans, indeed. And yeah.
And then there are some programs that have their own specific scholarships, such as the Faculty of Arts and Faculty of Medical Sciences. There's also a Dutch study grant and loan system, which you could apply to if you find a part-time job in the Netherlands next to your studies. It's quite hard. I wouldn't recommend it too much, but we do mention it here. We have a website where all our scholarships are mentioned. It's www.ru.nl/scholarships. And again, we will put that in the chat. So these scholarships you might need because it is not cheap to study in the Netherlands, although it's also not expensive compared to some other places. Here are the tuition fees, around 16,000 or 16,500 for master students per year. Only theology is cheaper from the top of my head. That's the European fee level, only 2,100. So if you do a 2-year program, you have to pay this twice. And on top of this, there will be the living expenses, which are around 900 euros per month, which you also need to prove that you have for your entry visa and residence permit. And this 900 euros living expenses will include housing, food, transport, books, etc. And what the scholarships do, I mean, there's some differences between the scholarships, but most of our Radboud scholarship programs lower the tuition fee from 16,500 or 16,000 to 2,100 something, so to the European level, and they cover the visa and insurance cost. That still means you have to pay for your own living expenses. This year, for the first time, we'll also have some pool scholarships, so they also cover your living expenses, but there are only a few. And the Holland Scholarship is only a one-off payment or amount of 5,000 or 10,000 euros. So it doesn't say it covers this or that, it's just one amount. If there are any questions about this, please feel free to ask. I will have a look in the chat a bit later. My screen is a bit far away to look at it now. Okay, I think support services to students we're going to talk about again.
Claudia, do you want to go?
Sorry?
Do you want to start now with the support service?
Yeah, you can go ahead, yeah.
I can't hear you.
Oh. I said you can go ahead.
Ok, thank you. Então, gente, um pouquinho sobre os serviços de suportes que a universidade também oferece. Antes da gente chegar aqui, todo o processo do visto, né, do visa, é intermediado pela universidade, então fica um processo bem simples. Se você precisar de ajuda também para encontrar um local para morar, também tem esse serviço de ajuda, também não precisa pagar nada por isso. A gente tem o Unibuddy Program, que é um sistema que você pode acessar e conversar com estudantes em tempo real, se não me engano, pelo WhatsApp. Não tenho certeza, mas você pode conversar com os estudantes, tirar qualquer dúvida que você tenha sobre o seu programa ou sobre a universidade. Quando você chega no aeroporto, Agora, não com a questão do Covid, mas tem esse serviço de te receber no aeroporto e te levar até a cidade de Nijmegen de trem. E também temos a Orientation Week, que é uma semana de atividades para interação, para todo mundo se conhecer e conhecer a universidade e os estudos e os programas. Durante o seu tempo de estudo, o suporte vem na forma de tutores, né, de student advisors, que vão te tirar qualquer dúvida e te guiar durante o seu tempo na universidade. E também tem outros estudantes que estão à disposição para tirar dúvidas e te ajudar. E depois de formado, existe um serviço de carreiras que te ajuda a, por exemplo, montar um currículo para poder aplicar para alguma vaga de trabalho aqui. Tem um programa de relacionamento com ex-alunos também. E se você é um estudante que não é da União Europeia, ou seja, precisa do visto para poder vir estudar aqui, após concluir o seu estudo, você tem 1 ano para ficar aqui no país procurando por algum emprego, se você quiser. Cláudia? Cláudia, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Es importante agregar que la universidad cuenta con un soporte para sus estudiantes y todo comienza desde que llegan los estudiantes. Este soporte incluye lo que pueden ser el tramitado de sus visas cuando son estudiantes internacionales que provienen de Latinoamérica. Otra cosa que es muy importante es que la universidad provee el servicio de lo que es un lugar a donde llegar, un cuarto o una habitación que es compartida o puede ser única. Bueno, en la mayoría de los casos es compartida, pero esto es muy importante porque tú no te vas a preocupar por nada más que por llegar a Holanda, a la universidad y a estudiar.
Yeah. All right. Next. Yeah, I think this was pretty much the last slide.
Yes.
Let's see. I think we have the contact details. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, we have one more.
Forgot about this one. That's yours.
Yeah. Então, resumindo, por que vir estudar na universidade, na Radboud University e na Holanda? Como a gente já falou, o ensino aqui do país está entre o 1% melhor, não sei falar isso, gente, mas é um 1% melhor do mundo. A universidade foi escolhida como a melhor universidade tradicional da Holanda 8 anos seguidos, entre 2012 e 2020. Tem uma grande variedade de programas de graduação e de mestrado em inglês, isso é importante, se eu não me engano são 40 ou 40 e alguma coisa programas em inglês de mestrado, e de graduação são em torno de 10. Os diplomas emitidos aqui são reconhecidos no mundo todo. O modo de ensino é bem interessante, é bem pessoal, bem interativo. A universidade, a cidade, o país oferecem serviços de excelência e a estrutura daqui é muito de excelência. Você consegue formar uma network bem legal com professores, com outros estudantes, com empresas que você acaba fazendo um estágio. Então, isso te ajuda muito na sua carreira. E o campus é muito bonito, o campus da Radboud é muito bonito, é um campo muito moderno, bem verde também ao mesmo tempo, e fica bem pertinho do centro da cidade. E o centro de esportes, finalizando, foi escolhido como o melhor centro de esportes universitário no mundo. Ele é bem gigante e bem completo, com mais de 100 tipos de esportes que você pode fazer durante o ano. Cláudia?
En un breve resumen, toda la información que hemos visto es como sigue. Las 10 razones por las que tú deberías de elegir la universidad es porque, primero, se encuentra dentro del 1% de las mejores universidades a nivel mundial. Segundo, tiene excelentes servicios e instalaciones. Enseguida, es una de las mejores universidades elegida como de las mejores tradicionales dentro de los Países Bajos, 8 veces entre 2012 y 2020. Podrás construir un network muy valioso, una amplia variedad de opciones para estudiar, buenos prospectos de carrera, un diploma reconocido internacionalmente, un campus que es green friendly o que es verde, con enfoque en proveer atención individual a los estudiantes y porque tiene las mejores instalaciones deportivas universitarias a nivel mundial. Yes.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. Yeah, there are contact details here. We have a lot of information on our website. Also, the UniBuddy system that was mentioned in the support slide is on our website, so you can chat to current students there and to staff members. Any questions you can email to us as well, and you can follow us on social media. We do a lot of live sessions there where students talk about their student life, usually also in different languages. So have a look there if it's interesting for you. And please, if you have any questions, go ahead in the chat. I'll just have a quick scroll through to see if we missed anything, but I think most of it was answered already.
Can I answer a few questions that I have seen in the meantime?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Yes, so something that I would like to, about the scholarships, because also Brazilian students are here. Important to realize that the Orange Tulip Scholarship is from Nuffic Nesso, and indeed in Mexico, in this area, only Mexicans can apply. But I know there is also a Nuffic Nesso office in Brazil, and if I am correct, also Brazilians can apply to that one. It is important to realize that you indeed in the portal, it will open the possibilities where you can apply to which scholarships. You can apply to various, and then in the end, you cannot have more than one scholarship. So Radboud lets you have one of the scholarships that you can choose from. So normally you would choose the best. There is a question in the chat from Aitor about the deadline. It's important to realize that once you, if you want to apply to university in Holland, like Radboud, first you go to StudyLink from the Dutch government, and then once your course is added there, Radboud gives you, I think, 56 or 58 days to finish your application. So after that, you get an email and saying you need to finish your application now, otherwise we cancel it or we close it. So they really do that. It is then possible to add the course once more. We have to start the process, let's say, from the start again, but it is possible still to apply. So the deadline for the main scholarships is the 1st of March, and then the university deadline is the 1st of April. So even though you get that message about your particular application, that doesn't mean that you cannot apply anymore after they would have canceled it. We would just simply have to start over the process. So when it comes to the process, the only thing that I would like to mention is, and apologies that I missed my introduction in the beginning. So I work here in Mexico, but I help Latin American students to go and study in Holland, and in this case, of course, in Radboud. And I help with the creation of the StudyLink account, and I also help with checking documents. That is a very important part. So to make sure that everything fits and that your application is as good as possible, you do the application yourself. That is something that the university that is something that you have to do yourself. I am not allowed to help with that, but I can help you with all your documents and of course translations, everything, to make sure that everything is perfectly in order at the moment that you submit. And that is no charge because we work for the University of Radboud from Mexico. So that is it from my end. Heitor, does that answer your question sufficiently as well?
There's a slight delay between us talking and it appearing on the screen, so the question will be answered probably in a few seconds. And in the meantime, I saw another question that I already answered in the chat as well, but it's good that it's mentioned here because I wanted to mention it in the presentation. On Thursday, next Thursday, so day after tomorrow, we have a virtual open day, and that is again a presentation of the university, but with lots of different sessions to go to. So you can go to Q&A with current students, you can go to a presentation of your specific program that you're interested in, you can go to Q&A with the admissions officer, you can chat with students from the program, and so there's in that way it gives you a lot more in-depth knowledge than the webinar today does, because today we didn't even mention which programs we have. So please sign up for that if you're interested in that, and I'll be there again as well. like I said, we can talk. It's the same tool as we now use for the webinar, and it's the same system. So you can ask questions in the chat. They will either be answered by students or by staff members who are there. Okay. I see another question coming in that I can't read from Elizabeth. And Heiter is very happy with the answer you provided, Jack. So maybe you or one of the students can answer the question from Elizabeth.
Yes, I can answer that question. There is indeed a little bit of misunderstanding sometimes about it. So in general, there is about an apostille. No? In general, what we need is a certified diploma. If we talk about Mexico, here in Mexico, for instance, the certification is either done by the Ministry of Education or by UNAM. Apostille is possible as well, but that is sort of the next level. Normally, if you apply to a Dutch university, you just need your diploma so that the university can see that it is official and that it is registered as such. Apostille is, of course, great to do. It is the next level, but normally it is not really necessary. I have even seen that during the pandemic, I'm just mentioning this, that certain students were not able to get the certification that they needed. And then they went to a notary, and a local notary even can certify a document. The main thing is that the university is at that moment 100% sure that the document is legitimate. That is what it is all about. So apostille is the next level, but not always necessary.
Thank you for that. And I also saw that Taina shared the link to the open day that we mentioned. So the virtual open day this Thursday. And I also included the links to the scholarship and the masters that I mentioned in my presentation. So are there any other questions that we can answer that we can help you with? Or do you want us to talk about anything in general? Maybe the students want to tell a little bit more about student life or services they experienced. At the moment, I don't see any more questions in the chat.
I think Jack is speaking. But I cannot hear him.
I can't see him or hear him. Jack?
No, I was not speaking at the moment, no. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, I see a question there, I think asking for a contact number. I can't be 100% sure.
Yes, you are very right. These asked for a contact number, so probably from Radboud, no?
Yeah. Oh yeah, or from you. I don't know, but that is on the website. I can put it in the chat. That's probably easiest.
One more thing that I would like to add, because I think it is good to mention, is that for the English certificates, we have, of course, the problem with the pandemic. So I just indeed read that at the moment it is taking longer to get your documents, like your diploma, your degree certificate, and it can also be more difficult to get it certified. Another thing is, of course, the English exam. So the Dutch government is the one who in the end decides about this. And for the last intake, the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition was also allowed. And not too long ago, in the course of December, I think it was about mid-December, this English exam has now also been approved for the next intake. So that means that for September 21, and if I've understood correctly, also for February, for the few courses that are there, the TOEFL IBT Home Edition is then also allowed. It is, however, important to realize that these exams are valid for 2 years normally. So if you have the special home edition, it is important to realize that you can use that exam normally only for the next intake, because of course we really hope that at some point life turns back to normal and you can do a normal English exam again. This all has to do with security and then making sure that everything is good when you do your English exam. At the moment, for Holland at least, the IELTS during the pandemic doesn't have that same option. So it is the TOEFL that is then the one that you can take from home and that is allowed for all Dutch students.
Yeah, that's a very good addition because we get a lot of questions about that. Thanks. In the meantime, I've put a WhatsApp number and the number for phone calls in the chat. Yeah, it's also a interesting question and answer about the pre-masters. That's true. I did mention it, but I didn't go into much detail. You always apply for the masters, and if you do not meet the requirements, but the board thinks that pre-masters will be suitable, they will tell you, they will offer you. So you don't have to make that decision yourself. Should I apply for the masters or the pre-masters? Always apply for masters. If you're interested in coming to the Netherlands earlier than your master's program, just to settle down and find out what life is like here, you can always participate in the summer school to be here a month earlier.
It reminds me of something else that is very interesting to add, since you said about staying in Holland for a little bit longer. So if you go and study at Radboud University, the university is going to help you to get your visa. They have a special office for that, and they will help you to get your visa. When you finish your study, you will be allowed to stay for another year, a full year, and that's called the orientation year. And during that year, you can literally do what you want. It's an extension on your visa. So when you pay for your visa, 178 euros, I think it is, you get that for the duration of your study. And then once you are done, within 3 years after you have finished your study, you can still use that orientation year. So it is even you finish your study, you go back home, could be Brazil, for instance, for a year. And then after that year, you can still come back and use that option of the orientation year. And well, you can at that moment study in Holland once more, but the main thing is that people use it for traveling, and very much used by Latin American students is to look for a job. And then of course you hope that you find an employer that will be willing to help you further. But that orientation year is very interesting, to be able to stay for a full year after you finish your study.
Yes, absolutely. And what's also good, during that year, you are allowed to work without a work permit, which is not the case during your studies. You are allowed to work during your studies, but you need a work permit. And in the orientation year, you don't need that. And it's also possible to apply for that after your bachelor, again after your master's, and again after your PhD. So you can do that 3 times. Any other questions or things we need to add, or things you want us to talk about a little bit more?
The only thing that I would like to say from, let's say, the people here in Latin America is that we all thank you very much for being here this late, because I very much realized that it is almost 12 o'clock now in Holland. So it is quite a late session for you all. So thank you to the 3 of you for doing this with us so late at night.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's normally we would be able to travel and come to you in person, and we can't do that now. So this is the least we can do. But yeah, it's an interesting perspective again about realizing how the time difference, how big it is, and but it's fine. It's not the middle of the night yet. I see a question. Do you know if the classes are going to be online the next term because of the pandemic? We don't know for September. We hope we're going to be back to normal in fall somewhere, because we started with the vaccinations, and we hope that by that time most people will be vaccinated, but we can't guarantee it yet. Next term, as in the term that starts this week, pretty much everything is online. What we do have in the Netherlands is, at least for first-year students or first-year master students, is at least once a week a physical meeting or contact moment, because we know it's really important for students to get to know fellow students, to see the teachers face to face and be able to ask questions. And we know it's really hard to do that if you only do everything online. But we will be able to tell you nearer the time. Hopefully, by the time you have to finally make a final decision, we will be able to tell you more. Diana asks, will it be a requirement to be vaccinated? Probably not from the government, although again, things can change. The Netherlands is a country where it's not obligatory to be vaccinated anyway, for children, for example. So I don't reckon they will require it. although they might require it for people coming in from abroad, it might be a requirement from the airline. So there might be a requirement, but I don't count on it. I don't know, Jack, if you feel the same. You know a little bit about the Dutch culture as well, but it's the autonomy of the human about their own bodies is very strong in the Netherlands.
It is indeed, yes, I completely support that. I think because I also got a question recently that somebody said, well, they're going to obligate me to get a vaccine. And in Holland, that will hardly ever happen. Indeed, freedom of choice is very important in Holland. So that it will be obligated, I don't think so. But I can imagine that if the government at some point really finds it very important that it is done, that you would need to object, no, that you would need to get some letter why you don't want to get vaccinated. But at this moment, there is no speech of that. And of course, as you say, we hope that by then everything is okay. The slogan in general for the Dutch government and for the Dutch universities is online because we can, and in presential if we can. So the idea always is to have as much normal classes as possible, no? And we really, of course, everybody hopes that by then it will be back to normal, but in the meantime we all realize that this is all taking longer than anybody expected anyway. So it is very difficult to do predictions. In general, I can say that in Holland, if I compare it to some other countries that we have here in Latin America, is that the situation in Holland is better under control. There is much more checking. The numbers are lower, and of course also the medical care is very good in Holland. So in general, you don't need to worry about it. That is a very important thing if you compare it to the countries where you come from in general.
I see a question that follows up in that: if you're not vaccinated, will you be vaccinated in the Netherlands? At the moment, if you live in the Netherlands and it's your turn, your group, like your age group or something, is its turn to get the vaccines, you will be invited. I don't know by the time when you arrive, if everyone is already vaccinated, you might have to request it specifically from your GP or your family doctor. But I assume that it will not be a problem to get vaccinated if you want it by then. Again, we don't know yet because this whole situation is new, but I know that currently they are vaccinating all the international students who live here as well as the Dutch students. And I saw another question: is there an age limit to apply to scholarships or graduate programs? There is not, but it's quite common in the Netherlands to go from bachelor straight into master's. So if you apply, do keep in mind that you will end up with a lot of fellow students who are in their early 20s, but there's no age limit. We do have students sometimes from 30 and students with children who bring their families with them. But there's no official age limits. Let's see. Question from Elizabeth that in case the classes are online, do we still have to travel to the Netherlands or can we stay in our countries? That depends a little bit because as I mentioned, we try to have at least one class a week physically, but I think if for whatever reason you feel that you really don't want to arrive yet, then talk to your program coordinator. I know in my faculty in the medical sciences, we have a student who's only arriving, who started in September, who's only arriving next week due to visa issues, but still they said now we do so much online, it's quite easy for you to do it from home. But it might differ per program. So, but there, if a lot of it is still online, I can imagine they will say yes, that's fine.
It's very important to take the time difference into account here. I've had a few students this year who started their studies online, but that meant that if the course started at 9 o'clock in the morning, that meant that if we talk about Mexico in this time zone, is that the class started literally at 2 o'clock at night, and it's okay for a little while, but it is definitely not ideal. No? So in the end, everybody, even though most courses were online, were most happy when they were there and they were at least be in the same time zone, because that is still something important to take into account as well.
That is a very good point. And even, you know, because a lot of our classes are interactive, it's not watching a lecture, because that you can do in your own time and if it's a recorded lecture, but we have a lot of interactive discussions in class and also a lot of group work. So you will have to do assignments in groups of 3 or 4. And it's also asking a lot from your fellow students to adjust to your time zone. So again, yeah, it would require a lot of flexibility from you. It's good, very good point. Okay, I see Heiter has said goodbye. Not sure if others are leaving. Thank you everyone for attending before everyone's gone. It was my pleasure presenting to you. And if you have any further questions, please know you can always contact us at the university or Jack at Innova in several different ways. And this recording will also become available. And hopefully we'll see you on Thursday on the virtual open day. Okay, I see one more question coming in. If PhD programs are offered and scholarships, we do have lots of PhD positions. However, they're not seen as study programs in the Netherlands. So they are offered as job vacancies. That also means that they are offered if and when a department has a project and has funding ready, and it will be advertised as a job. So it could be any time in the year with any deadline. And usually the proposal is already in place. There are sometimes options like PhD competition, proposal competitions, where you can win the funding for a 4-year PhD position, but that is that's rare. There is a website in the Netherlands called Academic Transfer that has all the PhD positions that are available in the Netherlands advertised on it. And I see also Taina gave a very good answer to the question in the chat. So hopefully that's useful for you guys. All right.
Okay, I just to mention to everybody that if you at the moment you registered, you also were ticking a box, no privacy box. At the moment that you have ticked there the box that you allow us to contact you, you will receive a follow-up email from me, and there will also be this video will also be put on the Facebook page, and you get a link to that, so you can look at the information once more and also look at this webinar. Will be contacted by either the Radboud University for sure, but if you ticked the box that you're okay with me contacting you as well, then you will also hear from me automatically.
Great, thank you. I see one more question in the chat asking for an email address, which I will type there because that's easier than to spell it out. And I see one of the students was just quicker than I am. So now you have it twice. Thanks everyone for being here. I think we'll end the evening or the afternoon for you guys, I guess, for now. And yeah, please feel free to contact us and Jack at any time with any questions. We're very happy to help. And it's kind of good match that we end on the support service page, because I think that's one of the things we do as a university, we do really well, is guiding you through it, helping it, always ready to answer your questions. And yeah, so please don't hesitate to contact us if you have questions. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you in Nijmegen. Bye.
Thank you very much as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tchau, gente.